contributed significantly to research on gender and green governance in Central Himalaya and on gender and democratization in marginalized and mountain communities. A recipient of national awards for her impactful research, she has also served as a member of the National Commission for Women's Expert Committee on Gender Violence, underscoring her commitment to social transformation through scholarship. Presently, Professor Joshi is working as the director at the UGC HRDC Kumaon University. So please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Divya Upadhyay Joshi, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. We all welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ankita Thakur, and thank you, Dr. Joshi. So I apologize for being slightly late, and I think we should not lose any more time. Today I've been asked to talk about handling student diversity. I think my only claim to any kind of scholarship on this issue is this, that yes, I have worked on gender. And gender is one of the categories that has faced exclusion for a long time and therefore deserves inclusion. So we are going to talk about, I would just like to know if this is the first lecture on this topic, on this theme, or the second one?
First one.
The first one, huh? That is right. Because that gives me a clue as to exactly whether I should go on to the introductory part or to the advanced things. So we'll try to understand some of the basic concepts related to this entire discourse on diversity, and then how to accommodate diversity. दूसरी चीज जो मैं पूछना चाहूंगी, क्या मैं हिंदी अंग्रेजी दोनों में बोलूं या सिर्फ
मैडम
mix bilingual.
Okay, bilingual, fine. That's what I wanted to know. So I will my presentation might be in English, but I will repeat all key points in Hindi. तो इसलिए आपको चिंता का विषय नहीं होना चाहिए. So now we are, like I said, we will try to understand some of the key terms and to share anecdotes and some kind of narratives about them, so that you can in the future, when asked to speak at official platforms or unofficial ones, take part in debates, discourses, unofficial discussions on the whole issue of diversity in India and the whole issue of inclusion in India confidently. देखिए, ये कोर्स जो है आपको कुछ सिखाने के लिए नहीं, परंतु आपको जो है एक आपकी जागरूकता बढ़ाने के लिए और आपको ज्यादा संवेदनशील बनाने के लिए है. तो इस सेशन का टारगेट कोई आपको थ्योरेटिकल नॉलेज देने का नहीं है. इस सेशन का टारगेट है यहाँ एक संवाद की शुरुआत करना. तो ऐसा संवाद जो कि आप में हम सभी जिसको आगे भी बढ़ा सके, चाहे फॉर्मल प्लेटफॉर्म यानी हमें कभी मंच से बोलने को कहा जाए, या हमें कोई टेलीविजन पर आमंत्रित कर दे इस पर बोलने को, या हम कभी आपस में बैठ के चर्चा करते हैं. जैसे अपने विभागों में ही कई बार हमारी बहस हो जाती है या हम कोई झड़प में पड़ जाते हैं. उस वक्त हमें कम से कम हमें पूरी सूचना होनी चाहिए, हमें पूरा एक प्रकार की स्पष्टता होनी चाहिए मन में कि विषय है क्या. Many of us engage in debates and discourses and criticism without even being aware of the nuances. हम में से कई लोग ऐसे हैं वो एकदम झगड़ने को और आर्ग्यू करने को तैयार हो जाते हैं, and they're very sensitive to issues of diversity, to issues of inclusion, but they are not very well informed. To be well informed is our duty as intellectuals. आप और मैं चाहे किसी भी विभाग, किसी भी अकादमिक क्षेत्र के हों, whatever our disciplines, whatever our academic area, whether you're from physics or I am from social science, we need to be equally informed about contemporary issues. समसामयिक विषयों पर हमें स्पष्टता और जागरूकता होनी चाहिए, ये मैं मानती हूँ. और आज मेरी आशा है ये एक आरंभ है एक ऐसे संवाद का जो कि आगे चल के सकारात्मक हमें परिणाम देगा हमारे जीवन में, हमारे आसपास की सराउंडिंग्स में. So I hope we are starting a dialogue today, a kind of mutual dialogue amongst this academic community about this very sensitive issue. I call it sensitive because आपके इस कोर्स में आप लोग कई themes करेंगे, जैसे ICT, जैसे skill development. They are very essential, they are very urgent, pressing issues that all of us should be aware of. ICT usages, skill development is the need of the hour, an economic need, a need for the economy, a need for development agenda, but they are not politically sensitive. They are not related to identity politics. They are not related to the politics of reservation policies or, reservation for everybody, those who have been disadvantaged. तो वो विषय जो है आईसीटी का विषय पॉलिटिकल विषय नहीं है, परंतु आज हम जिस विषय पर संवाद करने बैठे हैं ये अपने में एक पॉलिटिकली सेंसिटिव मुद्दा भी है. It is also very politically sensitive, and sometimes it is not only got to do with electoral politics or parliamentary politics or party politics, but also with our individual political beliefs. ऐसा नहीं कि राजनीति की चुनावी राजनीति या संसदीय राजनीति या पार्टी राजनीति से जुड़ा है. ये कई बार हम में से प्रत्येक के जो राजनीतिक विश्वास है, each one of us has, beliefs, value systems. Each one of us also has political beliefs, right? मैं तो आपको मेरे परिचय में कहा गया मैं जेंडर की स्कॉलर हूं, तो जेंडर की पूरी स्कॉलरशिप का जो इतिहास है उसमें से एक बड़ा जोरदार नारा निकला है, द पर्सनल इज पॉलिटिकल. द पर्सनल इज पॉलिटिकल. जो कुछ व्यक्ति विशेष के जीवन में होता है उसके जीवन के व्यक्तिगत दायरे में उसका प्रत्येक रिश्ते में कोई राजनीतिक पुट होता है. एवरीथिंग इज पॉलिटिकल बिकॉज एवरीथिंग इज अ पावर रिलेशनशिप. हम घर के जो हमारे करीबी रिश्ते होते हैं जिनको कि हम कभी नहीं सोचते हैं कि इनको अरे बाप रे राजनीति का नाम दे दिया, आप कहेंगे हद कर रही है, माँ बाप से रिश्ता कैसे राजनीतिक हो सकता है. परंतु जो जेंडर की पॉलिटिक्स है वो कहती है पति पत्नी का रिश्ता भी राजनीतिक है. द पर्सनल इज पॉलिटिकल. और राजनीतिक से मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम नारे लगाते हैं और पोस्टर चिपकाते हैं. उस राजनीतिक से मतलब है कि उसमें पावर प्ले है, रिलेशनशिप ऑफ पावर है, रिलेशनशिप ऑफ हायरार्कीज है, उसमें सोपानात्मक रिश्ते होते हैं. परिवार के अंदर भी सोपान है. There are stairs and so that there are hierarchies of power. There are power relationships. There is domination. There is exploitation. There is just as there is in national politics or social politics or regional politics, our families are also mini political grounds ये कहा जाता है. And अभी तो आप देखिए भारत में पिछले 6 महीने में अनफॉर्चुनेटली एक नई डिबेट की जरूरत हमें महसूस हो रही है अबाउट मेन्स राइट्स, पुरुषों के अधिकार, द पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ मैस्कुलिनिटी. तो जेंडर का तो जो डिबेट है इसका आयाम हम देख रहे हैं कि अब आधुनिक समसामयिक समय में when I say gender, I don't say women. I say both women, men and women and their problems and their rights and violence. We've seen cases of violence against men. अभी इंदौर वाले केस में पुरुष के खिलाफ हिंसा, harassment, exploitation, crimes by women, ये भी देख रहे हैं हम. तो इसलिए आज जो हम बात करने आए एक संवेदनशील बात है. The concepts we are going to talk about today are all sensitive. They need a great degree of nuanced understanding. यानी इनको हमें बारीकी से समझने की आवश्यकता है. Nuanced understanding. इनको हमें अपने जीवन से जोड़ के समझने की जरूरत है. मैं आज आपसे थ्योरी की बात करने नहीं यहीं आई हूं, आपके और अपने जीवन की बात करने आई हूं. क्योंकि जो विषय हम आज यहाँ जिस पर बात करेंगे, अगर आप ध्यान दे रहे होंगे और अगर आप ध्यान से सुन रहे हैं, पूरे मनोयोग से सुन रहे हैं, if you are paying attention and listening in detail, then I think each thing that I say, you will be able to find something in your personal life or the life around you which relates to it. मैं जो भी आपको किस्सा कहानी सुनाऊंगी, आपके जीवन में भी वैसा ही कोई किस्सा, वैसी ही कोई समस्या, या आपके, मेरा मतलब नहीं आप व्यक्ति विशेष, आपके चारों तरफ की जो दुनिया है उसमें आपको जरूर कोई पैरेलल मिलेगा. जैसा कि मैंने कहा, ये कोई theoretical सेशन नहीं है. This is not a session where I'm going to teach you theory and you have to learn it, but this is about becoming sensitive to human life and its nuances in contemporary societies, especially in contemporary Indian society, right? थोड़ा सा हिस्टोरिकल पर्सपेक्टिव है. स्वतंत्र भारत में हमारी यात्रा कैसी रही है. I will not go into details there because we don't really have that much time, right? So I will try to share a screen with you and you will bear with me because I think I'll have to search for my presentation. Yeah, I can find it. Yeah, can you see the slideshow? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, today, my topic is understanding diversity, right, in the context of the Indian higher education system and within the framework of NEP, looking at what NEP understands, what the perception of NEP is and what its expectations are from us. तो उसको भी हम cover करेंगे. यहाँ पर हम बात कर रहे हैं, मैंने कहा था परिचय के रूप में कि भारतीय उच्च शिक्षा व्यवस्था आज की तारीख में एक बहुत ही विस्तृत, बहुत फैली हुई इन टर्म्स ऑफ नंबर्स एंड इन टर्म्स ऑफ जियोग्राफिकल एक्सपेंस, एक बहुत ही बड़ी उच्च शिक्षा व्यवस्था है. We have a very extensive higher education system, which is on the brink of becoming the largest higher education system in the world. हम कुछ ही दिनों में, अब अलग अलग स्टैटिस्टिक्स अलग अलग कह रही है, पर हम मान के चलते हैं कि विश्व की सबसे बड़ी उच्च शिक्षा व्यवस्था बनने की कगार पर है. We are on the verge. Now, what implications does it have? जो हम बात कर रहे हैं उसमें क्यों स्टूडेंट डाइवर्सिटी के टर्म्स में, देखिए, जब उच्च शिक्षा व्यवस्था छोटी सी थी, यानी बहुत कम कॉलेजेस थे, बहुत कम, लेट्स जस्ट लुक एट द स्टोरी. ये सब बड़ा बोरिंग होता है, ये सारे जो ये है ना, ये आई फाइंड दिस स्टैटिस्टिक्स. ओके, देयर इज अ प्रेजेंटेशन एंड आई विल शेयर इट विथ यू. लेट्स गो बैक टू दिस. आप अपने व्यक्तिगत जीवन के देखिए, आप सबका पारिवारिक इतिहास होगा. ईच वन ऑफ यू हैज अ फैमिली हिस्ट्री, राइट? ईच वन ऑफ यू, मतलब आपके पिताजी की साइड से, आपकी माता की तरफ से, योर मदर एंड फादर्स फैमिलीज, यू हैव अ हिस्ट्री एंड यू मस्ट बी नोइंग समथिंग ऑफ द हिस्ट्री, राइट? कुछ इतिहास आपको अपना पता है. आपकी माँ ने बचपन से सुनाया, तुम्हारे नाना ये थे, नानी ये थी, और आपके माता पिता ने, आप पिताजी भी कभी बताते होंगे आपको. आप में से प्रत्येक अपने पारिवारिक इतिहास को देखिए एंड देन लुक एट द एजुकेशनल हिस्ट्री ऑफ योर फैमिली. So probably when you're whatever your caste, whatever your rural urban background, आपके माता पिता या उनके नाना नानी दादा दादी की जनरेशन में तो रूरलिटी बहुत ज्यादा थी. That largely many of us must have had, if you go back there you have rural roots, right? Very few of us are third generation urban dwellers. Many of us are second generation, a few of us are first generation urban dwellers. तो आप अपने पारिवारिक इतिहास, इस पूरे लेक्चर में आप अपने परिवार के इतिहास को सोचिएगा और शेयर भी करिएगा. शेयर इट, बिकॉज समटाइम्स we understand things with greatest clarity with the simplest examples. टीचिंग का गुर यही है कि सबसे सरल उदाहरण से सबसे मुश्किल चीजों को हम अप्रोच करें. आप साइंस देखिए, शुरुआती दौर में अगर आप अपने गांव, अपने कस्बे, जहां भी आपकी बसायत थी, आपके 2 generations ago, the number of institutions was very little. संख्या बहुत कम थी संस्थाओं की, इसलिए बहुत सारे लोग छूट जाते थे. कौन छूटता था? आपकी नानी या माँ के टाइम पर लड़कियां छूट जाती थी. क्यों? बिकॉज मेनी फैमिलीज इन इंडिया, लड़कियों को की मोबिलिटी इतनी नहीं थी. इफ द कॉलेज और द स्कूल वाज फार ऑफ, नो फर्दर देन 3-4 किलोमीटर्स, 10 किलोमीटर था, 12 था, लड़की को नहीं भेजा जाता था. लड़की साइकिल से नहीं जाती थी, परंतु लड़का साइकिल से चला जाता था. अच्छा, उसके बाद मोबिलिटी के इश्यूज थे कि लड़के को शहर में हॉस्टल में रहने को भेज दिया जाता था, लड़कियों को नहीं भेजा जाता था. राइट अप टू 1970s, 80s. It is only after the 80s and the 90s that we saw greater mobility for women, right? और आपकी नानी, आपकी पर नानी के टाइम पर तो मोबिलिटी बहुत ही कम थी. So there were mobility issues in gender. Number 2, there was all kinds of parda. Maybe not very, advanced पर्दा, पर जिन भी communities में puberty के बाद, यानी कि menstrual cycle शुरू होने के बाद 11, 12, 13 के बाद लड़कियों पर बहुत रोक टोक थी, right? Their mobility was greatly restrained. My mother tells me that once they attained puberty, they had to wear saris to school. So at 11, 12, 13, they were forced to wear saris. I'll give you my mother's example. She's 96 years old now. And she came from a very advanced family. Her grandfather was a Rai Bahadur, very well educated. Her father was an ICS. But jab jaise she attained puberty, the first hurdle, her grandmother said, abhi school nahi jayenge. The second thing, she managed to reach class 10 in a girls' school. But then in her town, there was no girls' intermediate college. So her grandmother said ki ab nahi padhenge because tum ladkon ke school mein nahi jaoge. This is 1946. And my mother stopped her education. But in 1947, about a week after Indian independence, her grandmother died. Unki dadi ki death ho gayi. So my mother says, I was sad, but I was also celebrating. दुख था परंतु एक खुशी थी कि अब स्कूल जा पाएंगे. So within 10 days of her grandmother dying, she joined the boys intermediate college. ये issues थे. Pre-independence India, 50s, 60s, we saw this happening. It is only gradually after the 70s that we see greater mobility and greater access to education for girls. और हर region में, हर state में variance आया है. Similarly, caste based, especially school education में caste की समस्या थी. क्योंकि in many villages, lower castes did not, could not, would not access that education. Let's not go there. It's हम sociology जानते हैं, हम सब, we know the social history of India. It is a sad history of marginalization, that is all. Disabled, disability के साथ ये था कि disability पहले तो taboo थी, ना कि इसको कोई श्राप है, ईश्वर द्वारा अभिशापित है. It is considered taboo or cursed. Very few children survived infancy with disability. Most children with severe physical disability were victims of infanticide. एक बहुत दुखद बात है. बहुत कम परिवारों में उस बच्चे को जीवित रहने दिया जाता था. या तो जन्म पर ही दाई या घर की बूढ़ी औरतें अफीम, चटाके इत्यादि खत्म कर देती थी, या 1, 2, 3 साल की उम्र तक वो बच्चा निग्लेक्ट, मैल न्यूट्रिशन इत्यादि से खत्म हो जाता था. So again, disability, we see very few reaching adolescence and then very few being admitted to schools. This is pre-independence and immediately post-independence India. So in सभी, and transgenders, किन्नर, हिजड़े, उनकी तो community ही ostracized थी. ठीक है, उनके तो समुदाय को ही ostracize किया. So we find a whole community of people totally marginalized in the example of transgenders. Similarly, homosexuality, alternate sexualities or alternate sexual behavior, also a big history of taboo, a big history of secrecy, of considering it dirty, socially unacceptable, ostracism, suicide. ये सारा हम psychiatric illness की history देखते हैं. It is much later. Do you know, as late as 2010, that for the first time, a verdict of the Delhi High Court under Professor Ajit Pratap Shahji decriminalized, passed a judgment declaring homosexuality to be non-criminal, and much later that now in our civic code we find decriminalization occurring. तो ये सब categories हैं उन लोगों की, या बहुत गरीब, गरीबी भी एक कारण है. Poverty as a major deterrence to school education, to secondary education, and then higher education तो आज भी deterrence है poverty. Because all right, there are colleges spread out all across, but quality education. Delhi University is in Delhi, right? Loyola College is in an urban center. St. Xavier's is in an urban center. Presidency College, University is somewhere. The rural poor still find it very difficult to go there. We say there are educational loans, but who will repay the loan? What is the surety of employment after a degree now? So these problems, historically, the problem of marginalization of certain sections of our society was very big. It was a big monster-like problem. यानी भारतीय स्वतंत्रता के पूर्व का इतिहास देखें, भारतीय सामाजिक इतिहास, तो ये समस्या है लोगों को हाशिए पर करने की. Marginalization, the history of marginalization in education, of not being able to access education, non-access, non-equity. I will just explain the term equity to you later. It is a historical problem. It has very deep roots in India. That is why 75 years after the Republic was announced, Constitution came into force, 1950. And if you actually think this is the time the government actually starts, 75 years later also, we are still struggling with issues of marginalization. So what is the slide that I was showing you? What was UGC saying? UGC has this approach where they say, okay, the total increase in numbers of colleges, कुल college बढ़ जाएंगे, total institutions will increase. So total enrollment will increase, right? In my district, if there were 2 colleges, now there are 10. So in 2 colleges, 20 children came, now 100 will come. That is what very simplistic logic, हाँ? इसको हम कहेंगे बड़ा simplistic है, कुछ ज्यादा ही सरल कर दिया है. Total number बढ़ा दीजिए, तो total number of women, total number of transgender, total number of disabled, total number of lower caste बढ़ जाएगा. ये कह रहा है UGC. So tell me, how many of you agree? Do you think this will happen? मैंने एक चीज कही, मैंने कहा this is too simplistic an argument. क्यों कहा कि अति का सरलीकृत है. Increasing the total number will definitely increase total number of women, disabled, lower caste, but proportion बढ़ेगा कि नहीं बढ़ेगा हम नहीं कह सकते ना. Proportionate increase चाहिए. हर section को अपनी according to their percentage in the total population, they need place in higher education also. इसलिए UGC does give this argument. It is a partially correct argument, but we cannot consider it a very scientifically accurate statement, right? Yeah, right. ये है. पर हाँ, definitely we are all looking forward. इसके लिए government ने क्या कहा? Does anybody know what the government is trying to do about this? Have you heard of the term GER? It stands for Gross Enrollment Ratio. Gross Enrollment Ratio, GER. GER क्या होता है? GER is this, that it's a ratio. आप उसको percentage भी कह सकते हैं. For every 100 persons who are eligible to go to higher education, हर 100 व्यक्ति जो उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान में जा सकता है या जिसको होना चाहिए at any given point of time, उसमें से एक्चुअली वास्तविकता में कितने लोग हैं एजुकेशन में. That means that for every 100 students who are eligible for and should be in a higher education institution, how many are actually in it? At present, India's GER is somewhere between 27 to 28. अभी भारत का GER करीब औसतन 27.5 के आसपास है, 27.5%. So now when you look at this, you realize that it's a very small number, because that means, for example, I just give an example and I say in Aligarh, like urban center, municipal area or whatever, there are 100 persons who are eligible for and ready for higher education. 100 हैं. अलीगढ़ म्यूनिसिपल एरिया में 100 लोग हैं जिनको होना चाहिए हायर एजुकेशन में. अभी अलीगढ़ में 28 ही हैं जो जाते हैं. That means the rest are out of the higher education ambit. This is what GER means, gross enrollment ratio. जितने होने चाहिए उसका रेशियो जो है उनसे, reality versus the ideal. So now government of India has targeted, भारत सरकार कह रही है, NEP कह रही है that by 2035, वर्ष 2035 तक हमारा टारगेट है the GER should be 50. 50 लोगों को हायर एजुकेशन में होना है. What they are targeting is कि हम टोटल नंबर बढ़ा देंगे तो ऑफ कोर्स इंडिया में हायर एजुकेशन, the total output will increase. इतने सारे लोग पढ़े लिखे हो जाएंगे. But secondly, they are also targeting कि टोटल नंबर बढ़ाने से अब तक जो लोग छूटे हुए थे, अब तक जो लोग बाहर थे, those who were excluded so far will now be able to come into the higher education ecosystem. कुल संख्या बढ़ाएंगे तो जो disabled, transgender, the poor, they will now be able to come in. So the target is GER has to go up to 50. Right now GER is about 27.5. So this is one concept that basically I stopped that slide and came here because this is a critique according to me. मैंने कहा ना संवेदनशीलता बढ़ानी है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि मैं आपको प्रवचन देने आई हूँ कि सब अच्छा है. हमें हर चीज को एक क्रिटिकल आई से, एक आलोचनात्मक दृष्टि से देखना है. We should have a very critical and a well-informed but a critical overview of the theme that we are about to, because my lecture is now the introductory lecture. So I think I have to take care to clarify these concepts with you. What is GER? What is the government's target for GER? We have to look at things like that, right? Now, this it's not like India is the first country of the world or in to have suddenly hit upon this idea of inclusion. ऐसा नहीं कि भारत अकेला एकमात्र देश है जिसने अचानक कहा गजब का काम कर दिया है कि हमने डाइवर्सिटी और इंक्लूजन शब्द ढूंढ दिए, ऐसा नहीं है. The whole debate about diversity, the whole debate about identity politics, the whole debate about, including people from minority groups is a very old one, very ancient one. प्राचीनतम काल से यह चर्चा चली आई है, लोगों में भिन्नताओं में, समाज की विविधता की. And it is also that it is there all across the world. ये पूरा वैश्विक स्तर पर है. It is not only India that is concerned about these issues. It is a global issue. All countries of the world are struggling with issues such as diversity and inclusion. आपको विश्वास आप करेंगे कि यूरोप के देश अब स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं. जिन देशों ने यूरोप के टाइम पर रेफ्यूजीज को लेकर के एक्सक्लूजनरी पॉलिसीज नहीं बनाई, यानी यूरोप के वो देश जिन्होंने समय पर रेफ्यूजीज को, राजनीतिक शरणार्थियों को अपने यहाँ शरण देने से मना नहीं किया, उन देशों में आज हालत खराब है. आप किसी एक देश का उदाहरण दे सकते हैं? कैन यू गिव मी द एग्जांपल ऑफ एनी वन कंट्री? फ्रांस. France has such a large population of different identity groups. जितने लोग Germany also, France also, they are struggling. They are struggling. उनके अपने जो मूल निवासी हैं वो इतने कम हो गए. Their own original inhabitants, are so little, and the migrants are so large. All kinds of migrants from all across the world, right? Africa, Middle East, everywhere, Syria, they all. I mean, like, it's appalling. I do travel a bit, and so every time I've gone to France over the past 20 years, one finds a change. The last time I went, I vowed कि मैं नहीं आ रही, Paris तो नहीं आऊंगी. I will not go to Paris. Why? Because I had to catch a train, right? I had to catch a train, and Paris के 2-3 बड़े stations हैं, Gare du Nord इत्यादि. Gare du Nord is one of the big stations, train stations. उस स्टेशन के बाहर, बिलीव में, चांदनी चौक से बुरे हाल रहते हैं. वो लगता है पहाड़गंज आ गए कि चांदनी चौक आ गए. लोग पट्टे के वो जो कार्डबोर्ड्स बिछा के सोए हुए हैं. पीपल आर डेफिकेटिंग. वहां पर फीसीज पड़ी हुई है, ह्यूमन फीसीज. लोग वहीं पर मलमूत्र त्याग रहे हैं रोड पर. उनके बच्चे, मतलब लगता है कि आप धारावी इज क्लीनर देन कार डू नॉट के बाहर जो हालत रहती है. इट स्मेल्स सो बैड, यू कांट वॉक. पिक पॉकेटिंग, जेब कतरे इतना. आप सोचेंगे पेरिस, वाह कितनी सुंदर जगह है पेरिस. पेरिस में इतनी पिक पॉकेटिंग और चोरी होती है कि अपने को बचाना मुश्किल है, and it's appalling. Europe, so many places in Europe are like totally run over where they did not stop on time. तो ऐसा नहीं कि विविधता का जो मुद्दा है हमारी, and see, those populations will get integrated into their system. ना उन शरणार्थियों का बाहर तो निकाल नहीं सकते, तो उनको अब्सॉर्ब करना ही पड़ेगा. कब तक वो उनको रोड्स पर छोड़ेंगे? उनके बच्चे हैं, वो अब्सॉर्ब होंगे सिस्टम में. जब होंगे तो won't it lead to such great diversity like that, say, of Canada. Canada एक ऐसा देश है which is like a melting pot. Canada is mini India, mini Pakistan, all rolled into one. So ये जो डाइवर्सिटीज है, ये सिर्फ भारत में परेशानी नहीं है या भारत की खासियत नहीं है, मैं परेशानी भी नहीं कहूंगी. Yes, this diversity leads to a lot of governance problems, administrative problems, problems in welfare administration, problems in policing, law and order. इन सब में दिक्कत आती है, पर ये डाइवर्सिटी कुछ अच्छा भी करती है. ठीक है, दैट वील टॉक अबाउट लेटर. तो भारत का जो ये एजेंडा है इंक्लूजन का, कि भाई हमें सब विविधता को अपने में समाहित करना है, समावेश करना है. दिस एजेंडा दैट इंडिया हैज टेकन अप, दैट यस देयर इज डाइवर्सिटी एंड यस वी नीड टू काइंड ऑफ have an inclusive society, inclusive polity, we need to transition to an inclusive culture, and our education and other welfare services need to be inclusive. ये जो भारत का एजेंडा है, ये ग्लोबल एजेंडा से समानांतर चलता है. It is not like we are doing something new or original. All countries are doing it. but we are doing it in our own way. ये सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स जो है SDGs 2030, it runs parallel to that also. Sustainable Development Goals 2030 are also called Agenda 2030, adopted in 2015 after the Millennial Development Goals. These goals largely, there are 17 goals. ये वह 17 सतत विकास के लक्ष्य हैं जिनको विश्व की अधिकतर सरकारों ने माना है और वादा किया है या वचनबद्ध हुए हैं कि प्रयास करेंगे कि 2030 तक इनको प्राप्त कर ले. So these are goals that the international community has by and large. How many countries in the world? How many countries? चलिए होमवर्क, कितने देश हैं और कितने ने SDGs को माना है, ये आपका होमवर्क है. I don't have time. 196. Anyway, so SDG का जो goal 4 है, there are 17 SDGs. Goal 4 is education. There also we find the very things that our NEP reiterates. हमारी NEP राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति जो कह रही है वहां भी मिलता है. And what is it saying? To ensure inclusive. Note the word inclusive. Keyword क्या आ रहा है? Inclusive. एक और शब्द आ रहा है equitable. फिर एक शब्द आ रहा है quality. Right? And आखिर में शब्द आ रहा है for all. For all. सबका समावेश करना है. सबको समतापूर्ण शिक्षा देनी है. We have to provide educational opportunities and ensure education of all the population. And not only just ensure education. You have to make sure that education is good. It's quality education. It's equitable. इस equity शब्द को हम आगे चल के इस पर बात करते हैं. Before that, we just need to talk about something that I did introduce the idea in the beginning, that at the time of independence, we were struggling with the inclusion, even of girls. I gave you the example of my mother. And my mother struggled on to do a BA from Allahabad University. But then after that, it stopped. Because then her father said, कि कुछ कर लो, अब पढ़ोगे नहीं. So he said, तुम सितार सीख लो. So my mother's greatest regret in life is that her BA in English literature then turned into a sitar degree. And she got married to a civil servant at the end of the first year of sitar. So her educational journey stopped there. But she made sure her daughters studied, right? So this is आप सबके परिवार में कहानियां हैं. पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी महिलाओं ने अपनी तरह से अपनी एक चुपचाप अपनी एक तरह की क्रांति करी है. नानी से माँ, माँ से बेटी, दादी से पोती, कि it is a revolution of sorts, we don't realize it. You don't live in Afghanistan, so you don't realize it, that education can be so liberating for anybody who is marginalized, for anybody who is, oppressed, exploited. Education liberates. Maybe it liberates at a low pace. It is not really a militant kind of movement, radical movement, कि नारे लगा रहे हैं, रोडों पे जा रहे हैं, बसें जला रहे हैं. ऐसा movement नहीं है. But generational change आता है. Generation to generation, we see transformations happening due to the impact of education. So that kind of change. But the ground realities, one very good, if you want to read about the ground realities, one very good study, though it is now slightly outdated because it is a 2018 study, but its conclusions still remain relevant. And if you are interested, you just go onto any search engine, you type Sabharwal and Malish, or you just type student diversity, NIEPA. And this report will come out. It was a study conducted by NIEPA, NIEPA, New Delhi, which was a deemed university and is now no longer a deemed university. So there's a Center for Professional Studies and research, professional research in higher education, right? And there, two researchers, this Nidhi Sabharwal and CM Malish, they conducted a study of 6 states of India. And when you look at those, you might say, this is not representative. I don't see Northeast here. And I don't see Kashmir here. Yes, 6 might not seem a very representative sample to you, but these are also, please note, we have 2 of the Bimaru Rajya there, right? These are states that somehow do represent a chunk of the educational, or they do represent a cross-section of the educational diversity in India, the status right? That is there. So this study, of course, I don't have time to go. You can read it. It is there online. Aap click karna mil jayegi. What it does notice that there is commendable improvement. बहुत क्या कहते हैं विकास हुआ है from independence to now. Agar if we look at the journey of 75, 78 years of independence, 75 of the republic, there is tremendous improvement. Like I said, look at this, my mother to me, my grandmother, I'll tell you the commendable improvement kyun keh rahi hai. I'll tell you my family history, just for interest, to give you a break in between. My great grandmother was born in 1898. ठीक है, तो करीब 1900 के आसपास. She died in 1914 at the age of 14 years. मेरी पर नानी 14 साल की उम्र में मर गई. Right. My nani was born, my grandmother was born in 1911. My mother was born in 29. And I was born when she was quite old. I was born in 1968. So this is 4 generations of women, you know. And my daughter is born in 1998. So that's 5 generations of women in 1 century. 100 साल के दायरे में, from 1898 to 1998, 100 years, 5 generations. And look at it, the first one woman in that line, कहानी की जो पहली महिला है, वो 14 साल की उम्र में मर जाती है. उसने कभी कुछ नहीं पढ़ा है, वो अपना नाम नहीं लिख सकती है. She is married into a very grand family, Rai Bahadurs and things like that. But she's uneducated, a village girl. And when she is married at age of 14, she is married to a man who is at least 54 years old. At least 54 years old. So look at the age gap. She is married as the 4th wife of this important man. And why is she married? Itne age gap mein, so that she can give him a son. He did not have a son, so she is married to give him a son. Now look at this girl at age 10 or 11. She is forced to sleep with a man who is 40 years older than her. आज हम बात करते हैं empowerment. We say voice, agency, mobility. She has nothing. No voice, no agency, no mobility. She probably has never in her life had a decent conversation with her husband. की मतलब बैठ के बात भी नहीं करी होगी husband से कभी. Her only role is to bring the son, to sleep with him and get the son. At the age of, I think, when she was 12 years old, she gave birth to my grandmother. So the first pregnancy is at 12. And she gives birth to a daughter. Exactly 1.5 years later, she gives birth to another daughter, and she dies in childbirth. The daughter also dies. So look at the life story. What is that life 100 years ago? And look now, forget me, look at my daughter. My daughter is now going to be 26. And there is no mention of marriage. She's studied, she's been to JNU, she is very aware of her rights, not only of her rights, but her ideology. She has a voice, agency, mobility, empowerment, protest. She believes strongly in feminist rights. One dare not use the word marriage with her because she says, like, what marriage? I don't believe in marriage. 100 years, what has changed? We are the same family with the same Brahmanical values, same Hindu Sanatan Dharmis. What has changed? Education. According to me, education. Big transformation. Big transformation brought about by education for the marginalized. Whether it is women, whether it is the transgenders, whether it is the poor who have been absorbed into the system by government schemes. पहले गरीब बच्चा नहीं पढ़ सकता था, फीस के लिए पैसा नहीं था, things like that. There was real poverty. You've just read I hope you've read the latest World Bank statistics, which says that in India, where has it gone? The fertility rate has gone down to 1.9. And what about the other figures? Do look up the latest figures that have come. Though the opposition parties are really kind of, blasting the World Bank. They're blasting the World Bank because they're saying that they have neglected several aspects in calculating that inflation index and all. But things are changing, have changed since independence. So this report also says there is commendable improvement for the marginalized, but unresolved concerns remain. आप में से कोई एक भी unresolved concern बताएगा? What is an unresolved concern at present? What is an unresolved concern? Nothing? What about the reservation policy? Don't you see it as an unresolved concern? The whole issue of creamy layer reservations? The whole issue of misuse of the reservation policy? I would see as an unresolved concern. I would see the condition of transgenders still as an unresolved concern. बहुत कुछ है जो अभी भी नहीं सुलझा है. There's a lot of crises, right? So that remains. Then, of course, again, other research. This is very good research, credible research. And this tells us that, and the source is this very report. I have not gone beyond that, I must admit. But whole idea is that in higher education, there are still gaps. There are still spaces of discrimination, and based on various things. It can be gender, it can be sexuality, it can be poverty, a lot of issues still there. And why are we not able to resolve these? Because of the history of power and privilege. The roots of discrimination are so strong. Like we say कि महिलाओं के साथ अत्याचार, violence against women, or the problem of women. I'm not saying men don't have problems. We are now talking of men's rights. We are talking of discrimination against women, especially criminal rights. Rights against crime, because men are being killed, murdered, and many times laws are failing to protect them, like in the case of divorce, etc. But what is happening is that, yes, certain issues, like the issue of gender के पीछे क्या है पूरा? Patriarchy, पितृसत्ता. Behind the whole operation of gender lies the whole ideology of patriarchy, the practice of patriarchy. पितृसत्ता जो कि सदियों से हमारे समाज में प्रबल रही है. So that patriarchy has roots that are centuries old. You can't uproot them in 50 years. You can't uproot them by, passing acts of parliament. That is what social scientists have now come to believe. Because in the past 70, 75 years, all kinds of conceivable, inconceivable laws have been made. On paper, we have everything. But then in practice, we see a lot of discrimination, exploitation, etc. So it is because of the history, right? Now, what is this diversity? I would like you to discuss this. The world that you live in, आप लोग जहां हैं, wherever you are located, the life that you are living, जो आपकी जिंदगी है, उसमें कितनी विविधता है आप सोचिए. आप कितनी देखते हैं? Because I'm saying this because many times, we fail to recognize diversity, nuanced cases of diversity. Diversity occurs wherever there are differences in identity between individuals, between groups, communities, social groups, right? Groups on various grounds such as physical physical disability. तो जहां लोगों व्यक्ति विशेष के बीच में या किसी समूह समुदाय के बीच में अंतर आता है, और वो अंतर आते हैं उनकी पहचान आइडेंटिटी में. वो आइडेंटिटी इंडिविजुअल साइकोलॉजिकल होती है, वो आइडेंटिटी सोशल होती है, वो आइडेंटिटी कल्चरल होती है. आइडेंटिटी के बहुत आयाम है. देयर आर मेनी एस्पेक्ट्स टू वन पर्सन्स आइडेंटिटी. लाइक मी, my identity, I have a gender identity. I am a woman. I am a heterosexual woman. I am a mother, that is, I have gone through entire motherhood biologically. I am a post-menopausal woman, that is an identity by itself. I have been all my life an urban person with roots 2 generations back. Roots in my rural roots go 2 generations back. I am a 3rd generation English speaker. I am a 4th generation learner, right, from the male side of the branch. And I am a mother, I am a wife, in a middle class marriage. I'm a middle class, financially a middle class person. I'm a working professional. I'm a salaried person, a government employee. Culturally, I'm a Kumauni, which means that I belong to the Himalayan Uttarakhand, Himalaya. That is my Pahadi identity, you know, cultural Pahadi culture. My linguistically, I have an identity. So they look at me. I'm not one person. I'm so many persons. I'm a Pahadi. I'm a woman. I'm a mother. Each person has these intersection of identities inside them. And then between people, each person is unique. So we have so much variation between people, even inside a family. एक परिवार के भीतर ही इतनी भिन्नता होती है, तो समूह, समुदाय, क्षेत्र, इनमें कितनी होगी? So naturally, between communities, groups, there'll be so much. So diversity is natural. But what happens is when we are professionals, especially teaching professionals, when we go to work in universities or HEIs, etc., we are often so caught up in our work. The workload is there. Then our, overall, the composite of, our many roles in life. Like, you're not only an assistant professor or a professor. You're also a parent, you're a housewife or a homemaker, you are a caregiver, you are a friend, you are a social person. So all these identities take up so much of your time that when you actually go into a classroom, जब आप classroom के अंदर जाते हैं, या आप जब department में बैठे हैं and there's a research group sitting with you, we often fail to notice or register the nuanced identities. हम अपने classroom में as teachers in classrooms or as tutors or as research guides and mentors, we just don't notice the diversity. हमको सब एक लगते हैं. कुछ broad differentiation दिखते हैं, like oh वाह वो औरत है, वो आदमी है, अच्छा ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट का है. We might notice, okay, ये मुस्लिम है, ये हिंदू है, पारसी सरनेम है. We notice very, very generalized things, but identity and its aspects are very nuanced. बारीकियां होती हैं बहुत मानव की पहचान की, उनको हम नहीं समझते हैं. जबकि हम एक ऐसे प्रोफेशन में हैं, we are in such a profession where we are required to. Why? क्यों? Because we are mentors. अब तो वो ट्रेडिशनल टीचिंग तो खत्म हो गई ना, कि आपने नोट्स लेके जाना है और नोट्स में से पढ़ देना है. That age is gone, because now your student has on his PC, on his laptop, on his tablet, on his iPad, on his phone, access to much better information than you're giving. I'm not saying knowledge, I'm saying information, and I'm saying data. आप एक कोई बैठ के आपने नोट्स बनाए और आप बोर्ड पे जा करके एक चार्ट बना रहे हैं और चार्ट में आप क्लासिफिकेशन लिख रहे हैं. That student can click on something as simple as Google and look at a much more accurate chart. आप क्लासिफिकेशन का चार्ट बना रहे हो, बच्चे ने फोन पर देख लिया है. गूगल उसको तो 3 से 4 सेकंड लगा है. आपने पूरा 45 मिनट्स आप ड्राइंग कर रहे हैं बोर्ड पर. You're making a classification tree. That age is gone. Now our role is that of a mentor, a guide, a person who is pointing the path to information.